today with starting a live stream and sharing my screen if that wants to load. Go. And cool. And just a few housekeeping notes as usual. So as always, we are live streaming this. So if at any point you get disconnected, feel free to go and check out our YouTube page. That's very handy if you have any issues with Zoom. We are, of course, also recording. And as always, we will have some company and product updates, absolutely tons of them today, before we head into a Q&A session from the audience. As always, you can use the written Q&A at the bottom of your screen to type your questions there. You can also use the raise hand function. That'll allow us to see that you want to come on stage to ask us a question at the end, and we'll get straight into some updates now. Always the quick disclaimer slide. And then just quickly from me before I hand over to Pierre, let's call out one event that we have coming up at the start of February next year. So we are attending the STR Wealth Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, at the start of February. And we are actually going to put on a little customer event the night before that kicks off. So Sunday, February 4th, we've got a location downtown Nashville, basically ourselves, Turner, Price Labs. We'd love to kind of meet some of our customers in person, share a beer with them, listen to some live music, and grab some food. If you're interested in this event, please take a quick shot of that QR code, head to the link, let us know your details. It's a quick survey just to tell us know that you're interested. We're finalizing all the exact details, but we'll send those to you if you show interest. So please come along. It's a customer-only event, so please come check it out. It's going to be a fun evening. And without further ado, sorry,
that's a QR code that I need to check to get free beer paid for by Hospitable, Town and Price Labs.
Correct. That is the free beer QR code. So please scan away.
Free beer QR code. It's only serious, and a dog and food involved. I don't know. We're paying for everything, so that's a good thing. So just to give you extra 5 more seconds on that QR code, we'd love to know and have you to know who's showing up and have you there, so we can make sure we have enough beers for everyone. Okay, yeah, let's continue. I have a new thing, so that's something that's coming out a bit out of the blue to be sharing a bit with you, but we've been working on this secretly for the past few months. So one day we woke up all collectively, of course, and with one simple question: how can we get Hospitable to have 1 million listings connected by, let's say, 2025? At the time that question was asked, it was more like 2024. And just to give you an idea, today that's 350,000 listings that are connected over to Hospitable across all channels. And we need to ask ourselves, why would hosts connect to Hospitable in the first place? Why would hosts connect? Because property management software, that's a they that I was referring to here, they actually don't talk to self-managers. If you're a host, a property owner, you don't really care about owner statements and having all bells and whistle features. You have a job, you have a listing that you're probably going to manage remotely, and you need some help about solving your problems, but not, the entire plethora of problem from day one. Also, from contacts and interviews, it's also quite risky to be connecting with a property management software, it seems. This is not an industry that has a stellar reputation. I think we hear about that many times over and over. They're not really affordable. It's actually quite expensive, which makes it risky to get started with a property management software. And it may be complicated to connect your channels. It's no longer very accurate all the time for all channels, that is to say. But you remember maybe a time when connecting your account to a property management software meant that you need to redo your entire listings, you would lose review, or for example, you would have to give up on request to book. So those things have evolved, they've changed over time, but it's still nonetheless, there is a bit of a reputation problem in the property management software. It's a bit of an industry. So if we move over to the next slide, discovering simply that hosts still have a bunch of problems that they need to solve. That can be cleaning management, that can be accounting, that can be getting their property insured, or getting the reservation insured, that can be make sure that the listings that they have are priced correctly. But the problem is that all of those, let's call them added value service providers that are not exactly property management software, actually not at all, but they offer a very specific and distinct service. They cannot work unless they integrate with a property management software whose job is to integrate with your booking channel. So that means The problem is that if you want to have your problem solved, you first need to have a problem, which is that you need to have a property management software in the first place. And that's not exactly a thing that's pretty good for the industry in general. The number one problem of this industry from the vendors, and I believe also very much because of this part of the vendors, and it's becoming a problem also on the host side, is that connecting your OTA accounts, and your OTA stands for online travel agency, that's the general word for all your booking channels, to connect your OTA channels to the software that you want to solve the problem you have, you cannot be required to buy another software to operate as some kind of connector between your OTA and the thing that's actually going to be solving your problem. And that's a very difficult situation to be in. You also don't have a lot of other options. So, for example, I was thinking about insurance. Insurance service providers, SuperArg or Safely, for example, in the industry, I've been talking about developing their products for homeowners. It's actually very difficult because it means that they expect their customers, their hosts, to be adding manually their reservation details. And you can imagine that if you are an insurance that's actually only going to insure a reservation that are added manually by your host, that they are not going to add all the reservations that are low risk. They actually only add the reservations that are very risky and therefore have a high chance of eating your own wallet. So that's not really great to operate as a business, focusing on the homeowners whenever you are an insurance company. So it's very difficult to operate without that connection. So self-managers, they're always on the losing end of that stick in particular, because they do not have a PMS, they're not API connected, they cannot use the software that they want, and that software is not going to make a lot of effort because it's not something that they can buy, so it's not something that they can sell to self-managers. So the industry is basically continually focusing away from host and actually working more on the property managers that are API connected, that have a property management software, and they can go add more integration of their property management software all the time. Good. But the problem is, and on the next slide, is that the number of listings that are actually connected to software is pretty ridiculous compared with approximately 10 million listings that would be connected worldwide, that would be available worldwide across all channels, including directly. So that creates a bit of a problem, is that you see all those vendors or the property management software, they can only chase 10% of the market. It's obviously going to cause a problem if you want to get to 1 million listings. And that creates a bit of an obligation for us at Hospitable to grow the market first. But then, hopefully, we're able to reap the rewards of that. So that's why we decided to create this year, secretly, although we've alluded to it a few times in the tunnel, a product called Hospitable Connect. Now, Hospitable Connect is a very different product than the ones that you're interacting with every day, in that it's an industry-facing technical product. It's not a product that you can sign up to and pay for. Actually, even you don't have to pay for anything. It's free for everyone. But it's a technical product. It's a set of APIs that allows software vendors, marketplaces, e-commerce companies, everyone really, to connect their own software, their own product, to the OTAs of their choice, so that their customers, their host, can actually experience that product firsthand from them without having the need to purchase another software. It's fantastic for vendors because that means they just need to sell their product, not another one. It's fantastic for users because they can see the benefit fast or the absence of a benefit fast. And it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's free because no cost to hosts or vendors. This is not a product that we are monetizing in any way. It's a commodity in our book. And this is just a connectivity piece so that a software vendor can receive updates from Airbnb, for example, or for Vrbo in the future without much faster than it would take otherwise. Why are we doing this? Because our market, our persona, the customers that we are chasing are the hosts with less than 7 properties. And we have some fantastic data from our friends at Transparent/OTA Insights, just really as rebranded. 78.8% of hosts have less than 7 properties. 40% of listings worldwide are managed just by hosts with 1 or 2 properties. Now, those numbers are not surprising, but it still creates a bit of a problem, is that if you want to focus on that particular market, the competition is really about getting the listings to be connected. It's not about competing with other property management software, really. And the idea is it makes business sense for us if we connect more listings to help solve the problems they have on another product at Hospitable. Then we are bound to reap some rewards because we already have their accounts connected. There may be already some logic into place that we can expose to those vendors. And more importantly, that means a transition from just not having a PMS to having a PMS is actually super sweet and super soft. We already have the data, we already have the integration, so no disruption will be brought to different processes and workflows. What's in it for you? That's what's in it for me. One, I think there is a long-term consequence on bringing focus on the industry to all hosts. If more service providers can actually sell their product to hosts, not being connected to a PMS, they're going to bring more features, they're going to bring more benefits to hosts around the world. The second thing is that because we are going to be able to provide that APIs, we're going to be able to offer more choice on a very critical feature that's part of a PMS ourselves, and that is basically to offer you more integrations. That is getting your data out to work on a problem that you, Hospitable, has not fixed or has not yet fixed, maybe not fixed the way you would like. And so you can put your data to work elsewhere. But also, if you are going to want to be a more sophisticated customer, want to develop your own workflows on top of our API, you are going to have to build on a top API, so on the top technical infrastructure. I'm going to leave to Emily to introduce you what Hospitable Connect and what it means really for you, what are the features behind it. But that's just one thing that we want to broadcast a little bit out there to everyone, is that we want to become the preferred partner for vendors because we are the only one that want to offer you a direct OTA connectivity through Hospitable, at no cost to you, at no cost to your users, without any traps, just basically because it makes sense for us to grow the market, to grow the industry first, and getting more listings that are API connected. Now, Emily has a very nice app, much bigger and much nicer quality than myself. And actually, it's been her day job for the past 9 months to basically get that in motion. And so she's very excited to be sharing all that her team has built in the past few months.
Yay, thank you. Yes, I am excited because we've been working hard. It's mostly been behind the scenes, which is okay, but we've reached the point where what we've been doing is actually going to start benefiting you, right? Most of what we've talked about has been talking about benefiting hosts who aren't using a property management system. So I want to tell a little bit of my personal story to kind of help us all get in this mindset, because I think we've all been through this exact same use case. So it'll help us kind of understand why we're doing what we're doing and how it's going to serve you today and in the future. So about 1.5 years ago, I bought my property and I was planning to become a host, right? I wasn't trying to do this as my business. I was really just trying to get a vacation home for my family that paid for itself, right? Not trying to make millions, not trying to run a property management company. I just wanted a free vacation home, right? So I have always been a product manager in the tech space. So I honestly thought that technology was going to be the least of my concerns, because there's something out there for everybody, right? There's an app for everything you need and a lot of stuff you don't need. And so I was I'm going to focus on the property, getting the property ready. I'll worry about my tech stack later once the property's ready. And I was very wrong. So I invested all this time to get the property ready, did some light renovations, got new furniture, all that jazz. And, I'd been listening to the podcast and stuff. I was the first thing I need as a brand new host is probably dynamic pricing, right? That's kind of a standard tool that you add on to start, optimizing your revenue, right? So I was I'm going to look for a dynamic pricing platform that I can use kind of right out the gate. And I quickly learned that there's really not many out there that I could use without having first paid for a property management system. And that's a little bit frustrating, right? What Pierre said earlier, I had to buy another software to get access to the software that I actually wanted in that moment. Now, it worked out for me. I found Hospitable, and that's how I ended up getting access to the dynamic pricing platform that I wanted. But many hosts are not willing to take that jump and purchase a property management system because it's quite frankly overkill for the for what it is they're trying to do, right? So put yourself in that mindset, right? You're a brand new host, you've got one property. What is the first tool that you're going to be looking for? Not a property management system. What's the first tool you're going to be looking for? Let us know that in the chat, because that's really going to inform some things that we do in the future. So now let's move on to Hospitable Connect. Our primary mission at Hospitable is to gift hosts their time back. We don't have like a little asterisk that says gift hosts who pay us their money, their time back, right? It's just host. And like Pierre mentioned, there's 10 million listings out there, millions and millions of hosts. They're not all our customers right now, and that's okay. We still want to serve them. And so how can we do that? And that's where Hospitable Connect was born. Again, this is a vendor-facing product, so probably not something you guys will need to interact with at this time. This really opens the door for hosts like I was with one property to start building a really, really awesome tech stack without having to invest in a property management system before I do that. We have a super simple like host-facing connection flow. It takes literally less than a minute to get through this process. There's a little GIF there showing you exactly what it looks like. And from there, you connect your OTA account with the services that you choose to use. So in my little demo example, Revenue Rainbow is my dynamic pricing platform that I've chosen to connect my account with. And going through Connect as a host with one property, I can now have an awesome dynamic pricing tool without also having to get a property management system. We've kind of quietly launched this earlier this year. We've got 24 vendors working on implementations today, and more are onboarding all the time. And it's really exciting. We've seen almost 3,000 new listings come through this. And again, these are hosts who are not Hospitable customers. They're other hosts that we're serving, helping them get their time back through vendor partnerships and through the use of this really great tool. But what about, we have this like secondary mission that we don't really talk about that much, and that's to become the preferred partner for vendors. So I want to go to the next slide and talk a little bit about like, go back in your host shoes, right? You've got your one property and you're like, okay, I've been able to benefit from Hospitable Connect. My OTA accounts are connected to Revenue Rainbow. I've now connected maybe a guidebook platform, maybe a noise monitoring service, right? I'm ready to scale. I have my technology stack in place and I'm ready to scale. So now is the time for me as a host to start looking at a property management system. What's the first thing you're going to look for, right? I'm going to look for a property management system that supports all the technology that I currently have integrated in my business today. So I'm going to be looking for a property management system that has a Revenue Rainbow integration and that has the same guidebook integration that I'm already using, et cetera. And so when our hosts are in that situation, they're hopefully going to find Hospitable and realize that we already support all of these integrations out of the box. What are the odds of that, right? Like, how are these vendors able to pull that off? Well, that leads the way into our next slide, which is talking about our public API. We previously had a public API that, quite frankly, was very legacy. It was built a long time ago, and it just wasn't keeping up with the great new capabilities that we were adding in Hospitable. So if any of you on this call have ever tried to interact with our public API, you probably got a little bit frustrated, and you had every right to be. We've released a new version of our public API that aligns exactly as far as the data and the structure offered with our Hospitable Connect API. So again, this is kind of like technical mumbo jumbo, and maybe the behind the scenes of it doesn't really matter. But the point is, from a vendor's perspective, these service providers that you use for Revenue Rainbow, right? They can build an integration with Hospitable and implement Hospitable Connect, and then they get access to the entire industry of host, not just people who use a property management system, but everybody who lists on an OTA. So we've really opened up the doors for those vendors, and our goal is to become their preferred partner. So we've built some APIs that are really easy to interact with so that we can work towards that goal. You guys get to benefit from this too. So if there's anybody on this call who's super tech savvy and wants to build their own integration, maybe that isn't available yet, you can also access our public API by generating a token just for yourself. Go to Apps, API Access. There's a new page there where you can generate your own token and get building, get to work. Please give us feedback on this too. We launched it last week, and so we're going to be iterative with it and always adding new functionality as well. So I don't think it's enough to just say that like, oh, our APIs are easy to work with, so you're going to get more integrations. Like, more is not better if they're not also good, right? So our next slide. We are working on new functionality within our public API that we're calling enrichment. This is basically giving our vendors the ability to enrich data within Hospitable. The easiest way to talk about this is in the context of short codes. So I'll start with guidebook because that's kind of an easy one, right? Many of you guys have guidebooks that you've created, maybe from scratch, maybe it's a PDF that you share a link to, and you want to send that guidebook out to all of your guests. We are going to be adding a bunch of new short codes in the near future, and then we're going to be giving access to vendors to actually populate the data in those short codes. So what that might look like is today you might have your PDF guidebook that you made yourself, and you might say, you know what, I really want to up my game here with my guidebook. I'd love it if my guidebook was personalized to the guest. Maybe it's personalized to their specific reservation, and you'll be able to go check out integrations that are actually in charge of populating this data, and choose to configure those integrations so that you can just really like up your hosting game, right? You can do that with guidebooks. Maybe you can do that with rental agreements one day. We're really going to be opening the door, allowing vendors to actually send data back into Hospitable so that you're not having to like toggle between different tools all the time to find what it is that you need. You can do everything from within Hospitable. Giving vendors access to do that really just makes everybody happy at the end of the day. So please, again, in the chat, like if there's any short code that you really wish you could see or you really wish we had, throw that in the chat. Let us know how you might use it. And if there's an integration or another tool that you're using that you'd like to have control over that short code, let us know that too. And I will reach out to every single one of those people and let them know of our new API that they can now interact with. Our goal is really just to see lots of new integrations come on board so that you guys can do some really awesome hosting work. So just to kind of paint the picture of the future of enrichment, we're starting with short codes. That's pretty straightforward. But we're also going to be, in the future, giving our vendors the ability to populate components within the UI. So a really good example of this is like noise monitoring, for example. What if you could be in Hospitable in your inbox communicating to your guest, and in the sidebar, you actually see that like, oh, a noise alert happened at 12:30. Our noise monitoring service actually texted the guest, and the guest, acknowledged it and quieted down. What if you could see that type of information in there? So think through that too. Like, what do you want to be able to see and do in Hospitable? Maybe something that we don't do today that someone else out there in the industry does and does really well, and it's their specialty. We can also work with them to build out integrations to give you all the information you need from within Hospitable itself. Which leads me to our new apps page. So all of this work is really paving the way for more integrations to be built. We launched this last week and we didn't really make like a ton of fanfare about it. And on the day it was live, we had 10 new vendors reach out, and 7 of those were people who we'd literally never spoken with before. So that's potentially 7 new integrations that you can have here in the coming weeks that we didn't have available before. And that was just on day 1, right? So now we're announcing this and we're expecting that more and more vendors are going to start building integrations to us and giving you a lot more options. So we've made an improvement to our apps page. Before, there was no rhyme or reason. We just threw everything on there and called it a day. Now you can search by category, so you can look for all the accounting integrations. In the future, when we have that guidebook enrichment, like I told you, you'll be able to look for all the integrations that populate the guidebook shortcode. You can search here and all that jazz. So yeah, the apps page is a lot more easier to interact with. Our goal is that these apps are very easy to discover. Long term, we're also going to allow you to initiate the integration from here. So you might discover a new tool that you didn't know of before, and from here, you'll be able to configure that and get that going. So our goal really is to continue, of course, gifting you your time back, which means avoiding all the tool jumping you have to do all day, every day, and becoming the preferred choice for vendors so that they build integrations with Hospitable first, which then benefits you at the end of the day because you, as our host, get first access to all the new tools that are coming online in the industry. Oh, did I talk enough? Andrew's turning his video on. Please let me talk now.
Slightly passive aggressive signal that I'm ready.
All right.
No, thank you, Emily. And yeah, I was following some of the chat, and I think maybe some people were a bit confused. If you're not using the API, what does this matter for you? And I think Emily was hitting on it there at the end. But also, for Hospitable, it's very much on brand with who we are as a company and what our values are, one of which is kind of democratizing access to software, like Pierre was talking about earlier. And if we do become the preferred destination for vendor integrations, yeah, we are going to have the newest and the best integrations. We're also going to have the most leverage with those partners to, you know, take your feature request to them to deliver the best features for you. We're developing these APIs in a way that the switching costs are basically zero. So you're maintaining that leverage as a customer of the integration as well, that if you're not happy with the dynamic pricing solution you're using, you can switch in seconds and use a different dynamic pricing solution. So all of these things, even though they might not impact you in an immediate way today, they're setting us up for success that we can share with you guys. So yeah, very excited for that, and a big high five to Emily and her team that's been working on this pretty quietly in the background for a long time. It's been a very quiet, long slog, and it's great to be able to talk about that publicly. Even if it got a little technical there, it is important for all of our hosts. So getting to direct, I'll try and keep it short. I usually steal the spotlight. I won't do that this time. So yeah, the biggest update we have recently, we did do a Hospitable Buddies session last week. We covered the big release of our self-hosted sites update. And what that did is it kind of reframed how we talk about people that aren't using hospitable sites, which is a bit of a mouthful. But I think there was a lot of confusion on which host needed to use widgets. And if you're using a hospitable site, people were still creating widgets. And so we tried to reframe how we talked about that. And we talk about it as self-hosted sites now. And with that release, which was actually quite a lot of work on our side, we were able to expand a lot of capabilities. So for people that are not using a hospitable site, you now have a customizable widget. Right now, that's the color scheme. We're going to continue to improve that with font selection and, you know, like even like rounded corners and different CSS that you could control. So it really matches your site design. We built an ability to do health checks for your property pages. Make sure that you have the correct version of the widget. You have the right property ID on the page that you've given us, that your security certificate for your site is up to date. That's not really our primary job, but we need to do that for Google Vacation Rentals. So it's a nice benefit that we're going to help you just monitor your page and make sure it's always correctly configured to take bookings. The property search, which was a big feature that we announced in previous town halls, that is now available to all of our hosts through widgets. There's actually three widgets to do this. It's a pretty complicated thing to pull off as a kind of a third party on your own site. So check the support docs there when you get to implementing that. You might need a developer to do that on your site. You probably have one if you have your own site. But that is now live. And now that we've got that live for all of our hosts, so anyone on a hospitable site or a non-hospitable site can use the property search now. We're going to go back now and focus on making a lot of UI improvements. So just the overall look and feel and the performance, and make it a lot more intuitive and a lot more user-friendly. So we're aware that what we released today is a minimum viable product for us, and we're going to keep expanding the look and feel and performance of that. And then it did a big win for hosts is anyone on a custom site up until last week when we released this was not able to get on Google Vacation Rentals. That has now been released, and Google is really performing for us as a channel. We also debugged an issue that was impacting some hosts, that their properties were stuck in pending. That was due to kind of an arcane issue with the URL we're using for images for Google. I won't get into details, but that's been resolved. And so a lot of those, I think all of the ones that I checked on are now live on Google. So really happy about how that's performing now. One smaller update on the next slide, we did work with AutoHost to get the ID images. I'm showing them masked here. That's my license. But we got the ID verification images for direct premium bookings into the inbox. Hosts were confused when they would get, a message from AutoHost who's giving you kind of the recommendations on things you should check with this booking, like ID name mismatch, or the selfie doesn't match the ID, and you lack that context because with direct premium, it's our AutoHost account, and so you didn't have a login. now in the guest profile that you can see in the inbox, you can also see the images. If you need these for your own purposes, for either like authority reporting in your area or something like that, you can download the high resolution images, and we put a watermark on those just to keep them secure, so your guests have that bit of confidence that their images aren't going to be misused. The other big project that we're working on now is quotes. We did release to all customers now the autofill update for manual reservations. So we're looking at your previous reservations. And if you start to create a manual reservation for a previous guest, we'll autofill all the information we have, the email, the phone, the language preference, the full name, etc. And that's always been about the first step for quotes. We may end up not releasing it with the verification step that we've talked about. So we don't want returning guests to have to go through the guest verification again. But we're a little bit slowed up. Just basically we're working with vendors on that side. So we might just go ahead and release the quote part of it first, meaning you make the manual reservation, you set a quote, you set a amount of time to give the guest to pay, and then we send the payment link to them, and they can, in the next 24, 48 hours, they pay, and it becomes a proper reservation. If they don't pay in time, the calendar block expires, and you can go back and give that calendar space to another reservation. Otherwise, other stuff we're working on, we are going to be updating the estimated taxes now. So if you're familiar with the way Direct works and the booking flow, we use an estimated tax initially before we do a final tax calculation on the last slide of the booking flow. We haven't been doing a good job about removing lodging taxes when the length of the stay doesn't qualify as a short-term rental. It's kind of complicated. Every state does it differently. So we're working on that today. That should be out pretty soon. So at least we'll be giving a more clear answer to guests and a lower tax estimate initially. Otherwise, still looking at some Google updates and improvements. We're looking at bank drafts or payments. This becomes more interesting as we look at, I think we're going to be changing the pricing for Direct to make it a bit more predictable for host. So we're going to be probably helping lower the guest service fee we're charging, but having you guys cover the payment processing fees. And this is relevant to you there because we're going to be offering a bank draft way to pay, which would be great for midterm bookings, for maybe long lead times and large payment amounts, where we could give the guest a discount for doing a bank draft, and the payment processing fees on your side, when you're responsible for them, would drop from 3.5% to 25 cents. Which would be a massive savings. So this is just something that, again, looking at Direct as a host-friendly tool and wanting to make it as cost-efficient as possible, something we're implementing there. And yeah, and the big tax filing and remittance update, we have started to have success on registering Hospitable to file taxes for you. Now we're in the trenches of actually implementing that. So the taxes will no longer be passed through, and some just pass through taxes in some areas. We'll actually start remitting and filing those for you, and we'll have more communication on that as we get closer. And I might have one more slide, but those are then even later, looking at scheduled payments and installments, e-signature for rental agreements, especially for Direct Basic, and getting those percentage-based promo codes that we always mention, finally getting around to those. But I won't talk about those further, and I'll pass to Alyssa for core updates.
Is Alyssa still with us? That's the question.
We're not hearing you, Alyssa.
Meanwhile, you can absolutely appreciate the effort that Alyssa has put into getting all Christmassy, with a candy cane in her ears and a little bit of decoration in the back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can, but it's a bit of a different mic, right?
Yes, a little bit. So sorry about that.
We can hear you just fine.
Yeah, but I put a wreath on my fan because I was told I wouldn't be able to speak otherwise. So here we are. Okay. Hi, everyone. So for core and connectivity updates. First off, we have new updates with AI. As a reminder, everyone has been upgraded to using the most up-to-date ChatGPT version, which is GPT-4 Turbo. Right now, for all beta-enabled users, we are now training ChatGPT with more contextual data and all of your property details to further improve your AI responses. Very exciting. Next, we are working on having a one-click reply with AI button from your message push notifications. So when a guest sends you a message, instead of having to go in and type something, you could just click reply with AI, see what our response is, and then just go from there. Later or after that, we are working on adding improved guest insights that will summarize a guest's typical likes, dislikes, special requests, things like that, that they've mentioned from other stays, say on Airbnb, and to help you be an even better host. So if they mention, how much they love, the bottle of wine or something that got left, or just different things like that, how great it was, something was kid friendly, then you can know that and offer those sorts of things to them. Now for smart locks, this is kind of a big one, right? So you've been kind of hearing about it ongoing, but our backup codes and always on code communication feature, we are still seeing high success rates for backup codes when those are actually required to be sent. That means that even if your Wi-Fi goes down right before a guest arrives, we will have you covered. We'll be able to send them a functioning code. After some great feedback as well from the beta, we have removed the code communication reminder messages. We will now only communicate a code on your behalf if no code has been previously sent to the guest, or if there was an issue with the code that was sent. And that would we would only communicate that code 10 minutes before the code is set to be active on the lock, which, as a reminder, is your check-in time plus any setup buffers. So if you have a 1 hour buffer, for instance, then we would send that 10 minutes, or like 1 hour and 10 minutes before check-in time. But again, if you have already communicated the code to your guest using the smart lock shortcode, then we won't need to send anything and you'll be covered. Right now, backup codes and code communication messages are only available in beta and are currently enabled by default for all beta users without the option to disable. This will soon move to all smart lock users as well. We're doing this to just ensure that no matter what, your guests have a smooth check-in process whenever it's in our control. And just making sure that people get in. And if somebody else could pop a link to our help article that's in the notes, if anybody wants to get any more information about how the backup codes and code communication messages actually work. For other smart locks updates, Nuki and Igloo Home Lock integrations are now out of beta and available for all users. Ongoing on that, we are very excited to get that one out. We also now display connection requirements. So, for instance, if a lock is or account isn't connected to a subscription issue, for instance, like with Nuki, or if a required bridge isn't connected, then you'll see that and you can correct the issue. We also have new notifications for failures. So you will receive real-time notifications. That means email and push notification if a reservation is altered during the guest stay and the code cannot be updated. So for instance, if you extend the stay, something like that, now we will send you a notification if that fails. And for what's next in smart locks, we are working now on further updates for the code communication messages and allowing a setting for auto host guest verification. So we have this for all of our other messages. If you're connected to auto host, you have the option to require that a guest is verified before you send that message. So let's say your check-in message. So we are working on doing the same thing for your smart lock code communications as well. That way, somebody still hasn't filled out what is required of them, then then we won't send them their code either. And then as soon as it's accepted, we would then prompt that message if it was still needed. We're also going to be working on a locked out question category for detection and response. This is something I've personally heard a lot of requests for, totally understand. It's kind of a tertiary backup to our backup codes. So let's say your lock actually breaks or runs out of battery or something like that. The guest says that they're locked out. We can detect that and then send them whatever your normal response would be. Something like, oh, okay, my lockbox is behind the tree, and then here's the code. So that's kind of the use case for that. Whereas with things like just the Wi-Fi going down or a code failing to be set, our backup codes feature would cover that. And of course, I mentioned it every time, but our devices dashboard is still in the works. And so you'll hear more about that as we have more to tell. Further to our core updates, we now have some changes to our language detection. So previously, when detect the language of conversation was selected for message translation, and the conversation didn't begin with a guest message, we of course couldn't detect the language of conversation, and so we would use the default fallback language instead. Now we have updated that so that we'll use the guest preferred language as the first fallback for message translation. And if we don't have the guest preferred language, for instance, we can't get that with VRBO, then we would use the host set fallback language, same as we did before. So that actually should solve a lot of issues we've heard some people have with the language detection and translation settings. Now, for what's next in 4. A lot of you will be excited about this. New metrics dashboard. It is in private beta right now. Lots of testing, lots of updates going on. But next week, we will be pushing this out to public beta. That means everybody with beta features enabled will be able to check out the metrics dashboard, mess around with it, give your feedback. Always, always, always appreciate feedback. So look forward to that in this coming week. And for our booking.com connection flow, actually just got to test it out this morning with Emily, and we have a new quick setup wizard that will be out in public beta next week. It will significantly decrease the setup time. It simplifies all the connection of new properties, and will check on the correct settings in booking.com for you. So you don't have to get redirected to booking.com. We can check on all those things on your behalf. And then if there is still an issue, we'll let you know within the flow, as well as how to fix it. And then you can recheck your settings and then go and connect those. We are also working on improving the current manual connection process. Because right now you get all the way through the connection process and you don't know until it's all done. It looks successful, and then you get an email saying it wasn't successful, and here's why. Now we can show you in the connection flow what the issue is, and that there was an issue, so that you can get that fixed. And the upcoming will also be allowing the some currently unsupported rate plans as well. So look forward to that. Next is inbox image upload. So we're working on that right now, getting very close on this for this week, actually launching in beta for Airbnb and booking.com. That means that for any manual message, you can drop an image in there and send it to your guest. Previously, you could only send, currently, I guess, you can only send a message within certain types of messaging rules. So we're looking to extend that so that you can send an image across any of the channels, including Vrbo, direct, and manual bookings. And then we're going to be looking at adding additional file types as well. And what I believe is the final core update, parent-child. is in progress. We are working on the front end for that and are expecting to have a private pilot out in January. So big news all around. Not sure. Oh, and I think
I think that's the last slide, unless there's anything else.
last slide. Okay. No, that's it. I'll stop talking now.
Cool. Thank you very much. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we have taken up loads of time with our updates today because we had so many of them. But if anyone does want to ask a question on stage, please feel free to raise your hand and we will get to that. I do say there's plenty in the Q&A already written out. We're trying our best to get to those. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feel like I need to have a recap myself because there's so many things. So from first, if you have a vendor you like, save them, give them an Airbnb connection for Christmas. We can do that now and help them. We have a new API to integrate with. That means more vendors for you to integrate with, and we have a new apps page with a new way to communicate, to directly integrate with one click, one authorization, and then that's it. You don't have to deal with API keys. And then in the future, your vendors, your preferred vendors will be able to push data directly to Hospitable so that you can create shortcodes based off them. We're talking about rental agreements with third parties. We're talking about guidebook links to third parties with, for example, reservation specific details. You have plenty of things happening for Direct. I feel like a lot. You have the auto host native verification directly within our inbox. You have auto filling for returning guests. Fantastic work over for different widgets, all of which are made available. And yeah, we've continued working on Google. And yeah, you have AI should be a little bit better. It's going to get a lot better. We have backup codes, they're being managed. We have new smart locks integration with new key and Igloo Home. We have we have a better language detection. It's been years. And yeah, moving forward soon, we'll have next week new metrics. Lauren is counting down the minutes. It's been noted. For that metrics being available to public beta. So if you want to get to public beta, you can just go over to your settings and toggle on for experimental features. Best Booking.com integration flow coming soon, so that you will actually be able to connect without having 5 headaches in the process. And inbox image upload with parent child coming very, 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 very soon. Any question? Anybody raise their hands in the meantime? Everybody's kind of taking notes and like, what the fuck? I'm gonna have a completely new property management software on January, completely different. So you can go have your vacation, have your holidays, spend your time with families, and we'll keep building software in the meantime. So if you want to raise your hand, do we share some things to make sure that people know about it? Yeah, you go to reaction.
There you go. Sorry, yeah, go to reaction at the bottom and then click raise your hand. Anthony, as always, knows how to do it. So Anthony,
showed the way.
You on stage. Yeah. Hello, Anthony.
Anthony.
Hey guys, love the holiday themed headwear and cushy hats. They're nice, very very well done. I had asked a question in the Q&A side, and I don't know if I missed it while I was chatting in the chat as well.
Yeah.
But as Andrew was going through the direct,
that's a question for Andrew in particular.
My specific ask was and is, will there be availability to show 2 months of availability versus 1? That's question number 1. And question number 2 is, will you allow for different sizing of the actual widget? Right now, where it sits on our direct site, it kind of just doesn't look, it looks out of place because we can't make it wider, and it's just, you have to have space below it, like a cushion below it, because it expands when you put in information, and it just looks weird until someone interacts with it, and then it still looks a little weird because there's all this space on the right hand side when you're looking at it on a desktop computer. Those are my 2 questions.
Yeah, I'll start in reverse. I think the current booking widget is starting to feel a bit like a legacy widget for us, especially after the experience we had building property search widgets. It's different technology. The booking widget is an iframe. Property search is a web component. We do want to rewrite that, but the booking widget is pretty complicated from that end. So it's not something we can do today. I think that's probably where we're going to get the most impact on your ability to make changes. Like the property search components are amazing with how much CSS you can apply instantly and have a completely different look. And it just really adapts to CSS well. The iframe is not going to do that. So yeah, I think we do want to give you some more capabilities on styling. And then in the background, go ahead and refactor that into a web component. No idea on the ETA for that. We'll probably be lucky, I think, for H1 next year. And then help me clarify what you're talking about when you're talking about 2 months of availability through our booking. Oh, you're talking about the view, the actual view, so you can see 2 months of the calendar.
2 months instead of one, correct? Yeah, so they're like side by side, preferably.
That's probably going to be with the refactor as well. Yeah, the current booking widget just doesn't support that wide view, and it's yeah, you notice it whenever you have a booking overlap from 2 different months. It's not great.
Yeah. Do you think with the new new search property search, I was actually trying to think of a way to hack using that instead of the regular widget to make it, because it's just a cleaner look. And you think that's something that might be? Am I thinking in the right direction where I could use that as the main, kind of as the main widget somehow? Just because it's
like someone would go from search results directly into the booking flow from the property.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah, I think we see people shopping in the search results. That might be an option to jump straight to book. We could consider that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, the booking widget has to still be in the flow, and it needs to get refactored. So it's going to be a little bit of a journey for us there. But yeah, we can take a look at maybe a straight to book solution from property search results.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking kind of like creating a property search result with only one property, kind of by property, if you will, to kind of hack it in the way that I was thinking about it. So,
well, let us know how the hacking goes.
All right, cool. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you, Anthony. And we've got another long-time listener now, John, inviting you on stage. Hey, John.
Woo. Hello, John.
Hello, guys. How are you? Can you hear me?
Doing great. What's your question, comment, statement? What's up?
Alyssa will know what my comment is.
Okay.
Okay. I really appreciate the ease of the smart lock and all the integrations that you guys have done. I just want to reiterate that while it is important to get the code to the guests on a routine basis, it seems like I would request that you think a little more about being able to like kind of have like a kill switch or something so that the properties can be protected. I think I'll leave it at that, but I think the auto host integration for the message, I think that's a huge step forward. But I'm gonna play Anthony's game plan and keep asking for the same thing over and over again. It seems to work. So I'm gonna do that.
When you mean for a kill switch, just basically so I can understand, is basically something that will prevent the smart lock code from being distributed until the condition has been met, like signature of a rental agreement, for example, or are you talking about something different?
So that's rental agreement is one, but in the short-term rental business, things go off script periodically. So a couple examples I have is, let's say that last minute, you're getting you realize that it's like a party risk, right? Like more and more people may be showing up. And so you want to be able to stop all the automation. You want to be able to, stop the automated message from going out and all that.
Okay. Without having to go through a reservation, because sorry, at least I know what you're doing, but I know you have but without having to go through a reservation because the guest already checked in, so that becomes an OTA problem, you can do this as fast as possible. Alyssa, what's up on us on our roadmap for this.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hey, John. Yes, I knew exactly what you're getting on to say. But I really appreciate your feedback about the auto host improvement. So that's, I mean, you're the big reason that your feedback is a big reason that we're doing that, because I know that that'll be a good one. But in terms of a kill switch, so just kind of reiterate for you, but also for everyone else, our code communication messages, I mean, because they go out 10 minutes before the code is set to be active, they are still tied to the check-in time. So if you're not comfortable with somebody checking in yet because they haven't paid your security deposit, or they haven't, they're like, this is looking like a party, you need to answer some questions for me, you can just move that check-in time back, and that will move back the time that the code is active. That will move back any code communication around that as well. And it'll be good as well because your check-in time is what your check-in messaging rule is also based on. And so you don't want that to go out either. And so moving that check-in time is going to be the best option. And in terms of like red button, kill switch, you can in fact just delete the code. And if a code is manually deleted by you on the lock app, we don't set a backup code for that, because the idea being you deleted this for a reason. And so that's kind of another option for you as well.
Yeah, so I won't take too much time, but one feedback on changing the check-in time is you're limited to that day, right? So if your check-in time is 3, you can only set it back as late as 11:59 for that same day for that message to go out. So it starts creating these things that, anyway, I've communicated it to you, and I'm going to play Anthony's game book, and I'm going to keep mentioning this over and over again. But a lot of great improvements. I'm really excited about a Hospitable Connect and some of the opportunities that's going to create. And as you know, I'm a huge fan, so thank you guys.
And just I'm going to hammer the point again, because we're going to have the smart device dashboard. So there's going to be the space where you can interact with your code, with your logs, and there's going to be plenty of new features associated with that. Do we have, Alyssa, a feature that will be able to kind of remove directly a code from Hospitable, or can we technically do that?
So right now, yeah, you can do it in the lock app, and with the devices dashboard, you'll be able to delete codes from in there as well. That's kind of the idea. We see people, with more that are using like the free lock apps, and they kind of get spread all over the place. So this way you can control it all in one place. So all of the functionality that you have in your lock app, you should be with your codes, you'll be able to have within the Hospitable devices dashboard.
Yeah, because I think the solution on access to the lock apps is lock app is not always working because of access management issues, and so you can't quite expect that. Whereas if you can do it from anyone in the team, can basically remove a code. There are some liabilities associated with that. Okay, I'm not going to want to take that lightly. You have a guest that is expected to have paid something that is prevented from having access. There are quite a few things to protect the guests that we need to think about. But I think, the smart device dashboard can be the place where, when it's built, you interact with every single code. Okay, thank you, John, for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, John. And I think we have time to squeeze in one more question before the end of the session. Natasha, welcome you on stage.
Hey,
Hello,
how are you?
Natasha.
Hi. First of all, I was going to ask a question, but I just wanted to say congratulations to you guys. You guys are doing such an amazing job. You kind of answered the questions that I had, which was the fact that I would love to include a photo in my check-in instructions. And I know before it kind of went as a separate attachment. And so I love that you guys kind of beat me to the punch. But I kind of missed it. Would you mind telling me again when you expect to have that integration complete for the future?
You're talking about image upload in the inbox?
Yes.
Yeah.
And specifically what I wanted to do with my check-in instructions, I wanted to include an image of the exterior so that when people arrive, they knew exactly where they should park.
Okay. I mean, that still sounds like something that's better handled through a scheduled message, but the problem with the scheduled message is that it's sent as a separate message.
Okay.
I'm asking the question.
Integrate it? Yes, so that's how it's set up right now. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding. Will there be a way for me to include that image within my scheduled message? So it doesn't go as a separate attachment, but it's included within the body of the email.
It depends on the channel. So yeah, I mean, if it's an email message like for direct or manual, then it gets sent as an attachment, I believe, and not in the body. That's something that, yeah, we could look into. I don't know what our options are there. We might be able to look at that actually. We're working on it right now, but mainly on the like the ad hoc basis. So yeah, we might be able to look at improvements there.
Yeah,
That would be
if
perfect.
you're looking at if you're looking at Airbnb, that would definitely be posted as a different message. So you kind of have to play, unfortunately, right now with different messaging rules, time a little bit later to have a bit of continuity, but that potentially can work. So we can absolutely 100% send pictures with your messages, with your scheduled messages, with your messaging rules for check-in. No problem about that, but just we are restricted also by the APIs. Such as Airbnb's integration was made available for their own partners. I think this is the state of the art right now. Is basically just post a picture as an attachment, post a picture not as an attachment. It's really the picture that's being displayed in the communication, but it is going to be seen as a separate message, similar to actually the way you work it on your own Airbnb.
I'll look into that though, Natasha. I think with the vendor we use for the email communication, like for direct and manual, I believe we can make them in line. It'll be a little bit more work than what we were talking about today, which is just drag and drop or file upload into a conversation, which is more of an ad hoc use case. But that's nice to hear that the inline images is something that would be important to you.
Please, that would be great. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for that feedback.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And I love your cat, by the way.
Can we see the cat, Andrew? Now you get to show it.
No Christmas outfit there for the cat?
What?
Really? You're not on brown, Andrew. We need to talk about it. Now, okay. Is that it on the participant side?
Yeah,
good.
That's all we had.
So plenty of updates. Watch the replay to get everything because it went really fast. There was plenty of work behind the scenes from all the entire team. So thank you so very much for following us along. This was the last town hall of the year. We're going to give everyone else in the industry a bit of a chance to catch up. And we'll be seeing you second Wednesday of January. Timing
January
to be
10th.
Defined. January 10th. So perfect. That gives us a little bit of time to recover. We'll be there nonetheless during all the holiday period. We are making sure that, especially on support side, we are covered. So we'll be enjoying the vacation, but we'll always be close to a computer to keep on supporting you in your hospitable journey. Thank you so very much. A great rest of your day. And this is getting very itchy. Can I just say that? Yeah, Emily, thank you. Alisa, thank you. Fantastic decoration, Alisa. This is beautiful. I got you to be a bit Christmassy. So we got you to be Christmassy. So that's great. Happy holiday, everyone. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.